I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. We're just a couple of minutes away from beginning the meeting. And before we begin, I'd invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Brian Powell will bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we love you and we praise you for this day. We thank you for this wonderful nation you've given us to live in. Father, we just want to pause and got a crisis on our hands with this coronavirus, and we just ask that you would just take control of this, Father. You're the only one who can, and we just ask you'll do it. We ask you to bless us tonight as we make decisions for the city, that you'll give us the wisdom that we need to do what's best for our residents. We ask for your protection over everybody in this city. You've given us a wonderful, wonderful city, and we thank you for it. Be with our mayor as he brings his State of the City address tonight. Just bless him, and thank you for all that you have given to us, and just be with us tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brian. All right, we do have large print agendas available over here. Marcia, do you see them there? Right there. If anyone would like to get one of those, please feel free. I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, and we'll start things off by asking our city clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Amelia Williams. Jeff Watson.
Here.
Mike Overton.
Here.
Colby Fulfer.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rick Evans.
Here.
Brian Powell.
Here.
Kathy Jaycox.
Here.
Ernest Kate.
Here.
All right, thank you. Before we move to item 4, which is our citizen comments, I'm going to ask Chief Irwin to come. We have a special presentation that I know you all will want to be a part of and appreciate. And Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm going to read what the individual wrote. This was on a fire that occurred on January the 18th, and we would like to honor this individual with a Good Samaritan Award tonight. But I'd like to read to you what he wrote as far as his actions that took place so that you kind of get an idea of what he did that evening. It was a Saturday night on January the 18th around 9 p.m. I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep. I smelled something awful, and then I heard a couple of loud pops. I then went and opened my door and looked in the hall and noticed the hall on the right was on fire. So I closed the door and went back in the room and tried to get out the window by lifting it up, but it wouldn't raise. So I then decided to go to the other bedroom, so I opened the door again and ran down the hallway. The really thick smoke was up near the ceiling. As I was getting down the hallway, I was calling 911 at the same time. I closed the door behind me while still on the line. I then grabbed a blanket to put against the bottom of the door to give myself some more time. I ran to a counter in front of the window, cleared it off, raised the window, pushed the screen out, and then broke the wooden post to finish getting out. I picked up my phone that I threw out the window and went to beat on Grandma's door to wake her up to get her attention. I then had to push a lock, metal gate open, and meet Grandma in the garage. We then went and got in the ambulance, and my dad came from across the street. So Austin Steele, would you and your family like to come up here? You know, it's not very often that we give these out in the Good Samaritan Awards, but certainly your actions that night not only saved you, but your grandmother, and really made it easier for our firefighters. So I'd like to read this to you before presenting it to you. For showing incredible bravery and confidence during a residential structure fire on January the 18th, 2020, Austin's clear thinking enabled him to recognize the fire, find an alternate way out of the house, and contact 911 to report the fire. Once safely out of the house, he immediately alerted his grandmother to evacuate. His heroic acts not only saved lives, they also aided in preventing further property loss and or possible injury to firefighter personnel. Austin, on behalf of the Springdale Fire Department of the City of Springdale, congratulations.
That is wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you, Chief, for bringing that forward. And What a wonderful way to start a meeting. Boy, you start a meeting with that and end it with the State of the City address. I just don't know how it gets any better than that. Thank you all for being here and allowing us to recognize you in that way. We're at item 4 in the agenda, comments from our citizens. If this is the time of each meeting, the portion of each meeting that the council sets aside to hear brief comments from our residents. If there is anyone who would like to address the council tonight, we ask that you come to the microphone, clearly state your name and address, and please keep your comments brief, understanding that the council will not act on anything you bring forward tonight. So is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, the approval of minutes. Council, you've had an opportunity to look over those minutes. If there are no changes or additions, I would entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Item 6, procedural motions. What's your pleasure, council?
Move for A and B.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for options A and B. Roll call, please.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carry 7-0.
All right, item 7, Planning Commission report and recommendations by Patsy Christie, Director of Planning and Community Development. Patsy, it's all yours.
We have a very short amount of stuff this week. I can tell you next month it's not going to be that lucky.
We saw the Planning Commission agenda that came out today.
Yeah, the Planning Commission agenda is quite a bit longer than it was for the February meeting. The first item is a request for a conditional use for a tandem lot split. This is in connection with a single-family dwelling being built at 8391 East Brown Road. Planning Commission recommends approval of this tandem lot split. The title of the ordinance reads an ordinance, resolution, a resolution approving a conditional use at 8391 East Brown Road, a single-family dwelling is set forth in ordinance number 4030. There's no conditions except what was done with a tandem lot split.
Move the
itself, and they've been
resolution be
approved.
adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments for Patsy?
Chief, you can go to the next slide and see what it looks like. I believe, yeah. That's
Okay.
what the slide itself looks like.
Is there anyone in the audience that needs to comment on this issue? All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Carry 7-0.
The next item is a request for a waiver of sidewalk construction in conjunction with a single-family dwelling being built at 7185 Sunset Ridge Circle. This is a subdivision that was annexed into the city after it had already been subdivided. They will actually put the sidewalk along the front of the house. They're asking for a waiver of the sidewalk along Wagon Wheel and Ziegler. We have done some of the other new houses in that subdivision since it was approved and started well before it was annexed into the city. The title of the resolution reads, a resolution approving a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks as set forth in ordinance number 3725 to Parsley Custom Homes in connection with 7185 Sunset Ridge Circle, a single-family dwelling, and Planning Commission is recommending option 1.
Move the resolution passes with option 1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution with option 1. Any comments or questions? Anyone in the audience? All right, Denise?
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Carry 7-0.
All right, next is our Finance Committee report and Chairman Jeff Watson. Jeff?
Well, this has to do with the refinancing of the bond, and Bob is going to speak to us. This ordinance was forwarded by the Finance Committee with a recommendation for approval.
All right.
Thank you. Bob Wright with Cruz and Associates, Kevin Fott with Stevens are both here tonight to answer any questions. Your bond counsel, Shep Russell with the Friday firm, came up from Little Rock as well. As you're passing this around, as we went through last Tuesday at the committee meeting, we kind of went through the detailed numbers, and as you'll recall, we're looking to take advantage of interest rates, take advantage of the market to save the city a substantial amount of money. The 2012 transaction, the 1 cent sales tax that's existing, has been in place for a while. anything that we can do to improve the annual payments, principal and interest on that bond issue goes right back to your general fund. It is a budget impact. So as we started this project, as interest rates were kind of moving down, as you'll recall, we were in that $700-something range in savings that would go right to your general fund. And that's where we were last Tuesday. We actually showed you, and I told you I had a little bit of cushion in the numbers, but we were at $720,000 savings to your general fund last Tuesday. The mayor and Wyman, as we've been working through this, and I've been showing them the maximum we had seen per year savings was $787,000. You've all seen what's happened the last 2 days with the stock market. As those of you that have individual investments in 401ks, you look at that, it's not a good time. It's not fun to watch TV. But we're talking tonight not individual investments. We're talking the investments of your citizens and what's the best for them. You're actually able to take advantage of this down market and what's happened to interest rates. And those interest rates, because the uncertainty of the coronavirus, because of the uncertainty of the up and down in the markets and people are losing sleep, they're pouring their money into the Treasury market and is driving interest rates down. So we go into this week and yesterday, kind of our pre-pricing, looking at it, and numbers were looking at as good as we've seen all along. The interesting fact on how we do this transaction, it's a taxable deal, not tax exempt like you're normally used to. There's reasons for that we got into last time, that we can't call the bonds until 2022, so we do this taxable. But unlike tax exempt, where the rates are basically set at the end of the day and you kind of price off of that the next day, on a taxable, we're looking at the Treasury market every second, and we're pricing a spread off of that. So our two desks are getting together, and our sales floor are working this, and we're saying we're going to sell these maturities at 50 basis points over that maturity and 60 over this. So we're looking at it and watching the market fluctuation. And as we'll show on the last page, because that's, since we've been through everything else, the last page is the fun part. I actually had sent an email to the mayor and Wyman as we're at the end of our pricing. Things had gone well, and had told them we're looking a little bit over $900,000 in savings per year to your general fund. By the time that we actually screen printed at 11:30, it locked in those rates and went and fixed the rates on this transaction, the total savings you'll see on that last page had jumped up to $950,000 per year net savings to your general fund. So with y'all's action tonight, adopting the ordinance, signing the bond purchase agreement, we can lock this in, close the transaction on the 31st of this month, and then you'll start realizing those savings, immediately after that. One thing that you'll notice in that first page, it's the same interest rate chart that I included last time. You can see that on the far right side how it's dropped off tremendously. We had some of the questions that come from the trading desk and the sales floor. Do we ride this thing out? Do we wait a couple more days? Do we wait another week to see what happens with these rates? But it's an easy answer. We don't know what the rates are going to do tomorrow. We certainly don't know what's going to happen next week. We had quite a few large funds, and these are insurance companies. You see their commercials on TV. Quite a few of them backed out of locking in and buying this debt. They said, we'll buy it if you do a 10-year redemption feature. We said that's not what the client wants. They need flexibility, so we set that at 5 years. So you can go back and look to restructure anything you want within that time frame. They also said if you'll take time, 3 weeks and go get an underlying rating, we might come in and be a player. And if you just look at how bad the market has been moving, and it's been moving in your favor on the savings, you don't want to play market analyst and try to absolutely time the perfect market bottom. You're risking your ratepayers or your citizens' money. We're $200,000 per year better than what we showed you a week ago. The coronavirus is the impact of that, and the Dow has just accelerated that. So it was a great day to actually be in the market as an issuer. So with that, be glad to answer any questions.
Actually, Bob, if you look at the 5 years, we're $1 million better than we were 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how big of a movement it's been.
Just, and go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, and so I'm just going to say, when we first tried to look at this back in October, almost overnight, it disappeared because the rates just jumped up. This is truly, it's an aberration that you're able to take advantage of and getting this locked in. That's a lot of money for your citizens that you don't have to pay rich investors that own your 2012 bonds. We've got new people that'll set at this lower rate. The rate that we lock this in, just for instance, you're paying right now 3.76 on your outstanding debt, and the rate we're locking in tonight, 2.24%, fixed rate.
Yeah. Just so people that haven't been following this are clear, this is almost $1 million a year, $950,000 a year, that they're true savings.
Absolutely.
It's a result of interest rate reduction, and it's not extending the term
Right.
of these bonds. So
It's a true apples to apples.
There's
You are
just-
paying this, you're going to
Yeah.
pay this, and that puts $950,000
These are
every
just
year.
savings
the next
to
5
our
years.
taxpayers. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Bob, like what the mayor was saying is there's people that might be watching this that haven't been to the different committee meetings that you've been to. And basically, we're refinancing an existing bond that's been paid down to where it's now roughly $50 million, right? So that's why we're refinancing.
That's correct.
It's not a new bond.
That's correct.
It's just refinancing because we can save some money.
Absolutely. It's just like refinancing your mortgage on your house.
Right.
Yep.
And it, as you said, it saves us that almost $950,000 a year, but it also pays out the same, same period of time.
Yeah,
We're
not extending the
extending it
tax.
either.
Actually, we'll have less debt outstanding than you do right now, just the way we actually got this structured. So your citizens are going to reap the benefit of the council's decision. What can we do with $950,000 for the benefit of our city, for the benefit of our citizens,
Right.
by taking advantage of this, of this interest rate environment. So it was a good time.
If you allow me to, I'll read the title to the ordinance. An ordinance authorizing the issuance of sales and use tax refunding bonds, taxable series 2020, pledging collections of a 1.0% sales and use tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any questions or comments?
One more thing I'd point out, not only are we not adding additional debt, but we're not extending this any further.
Exactly.
Just want to point, oh, sorry.
Mayor said.
Oh, I thought he said.
You're the third person to make that point, but I'm glad you
That's
did.
fine. And also, what is,
Obviously, Mayor, he doesn't pay much attention to it.
It's an important point, yeah.
It's an important point to make. You bet. We
I
want to be
think
sure
it's
people
hammered
hear
at
that.
home, it's solidified.
and also, what is the expense to do this refunding of the bond?
And that savings, that 950 is all net of what those costs are.
Okay.
And if you look on that third page, the sources and uses, which we went through last week and then previous, you can see laid out all of the costs as far as the transaction. So when we show the $950,000 in savings, that's net of the cost to get a transaction done. So that would be our fee, attorney's fees. I put in publication to reimburse the city $11,000, whatever the paper's going to charge. So all those
And
various costs.
The savings that you've stated are net after
Absolutely.
all that,
Absolutely.
after all fees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even paying for the expensive bond attorney to travel up here, so that's beneficial to the city.
Absolutely. And he moved quicker than is absolutely normal to get us to this point, able to lock it in.
Yeah, and I was
So-
going to say this after we vote, and Shep, you drive a long way to get a lot of grief from the peanut gallery up here. But I will tell you, not only do we thank Bob and Cruz and Kevin and Stevens, but we thank you for helping us be flexible and take advantage of these. And we know you got things together really quickly to allow this to happen, and so thank you.
As did the city as well. I mean, this all doesn't come together and save money for your citizens without everybody's collective help, including the city council, letting us come up here and talk
Okay.
incessantly at times.
Appreciate it. Anybody in the audience need to speak to this before we vote? All right, Denise?
Overton,
Yes.
Fulfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans,
Ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Will the emergency clause be adopted?
Second.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 7-0.
All right. Thank you, guys.
On behalf of Kevin and I, thank you again for the continued opportunity to work with y'all. We appreciate it. And this was a good night for the city. So we
Hey,
got really
anytime
well.
you notice things like this, keep bringing them to us. Thank
We'll
you.
come knocking.
All right.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you. Y'all gonna go get a break and then come back? Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, item 9. We're at Street and Capital Improvements Committee by Rick Evans, Chairman. Rick?
Had a meeting last week, Street and CIP, and have one resolution on the agenda tonight. It's a resolution accepting the guaranteed maximum price for the construction of streets and sidewalk trails at Shaw Family Park, 2018 bond project number 18, BS8, and it's a milestone for $1,733,110 for the streets and sidewalks adjacent to Shaw Family Park.
Move the resolution pass.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? I believe doing it the way you all approved doing this with construction management and milestone being that they're doing the park too, I think it's really paid off, and it's going to be a good pricing. It's been good pricing for us, so we're glad to see that. Any other comments or questions from the audience? All right, Denise?
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Carry 7-0.
All right, thank you. Item 10, Police and Fire Committee report by Chairman Brian Powell. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 3 items on tonight. Our first is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 police vehicles. I'd like for Chief Peters come up and give us the details for the folks who are listening and watching.
Thank you, Council. Just to recap a little bit, in 2016, the Dodge dealership in Springdale was Everett, and they gave us the use of 2 Dodge Chargers as police vehicles at no cost, and evidently it was a 4-year lease. They moved out of town. They continued paying this lease for us. The lease is up, and these vehicles are in really good condition. We're at a point we have to turn them in or buy them, and what they're offering to sell them to us for is below their value. We have collected, in 2020, we have collected a little over $15,500 in accident settlement money, and I'm asking the council to move that money to our budget and supplement it with $17,589 from our drug fund to purchase these 2 vehicles.
I'll move the resolution pass.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Chief, just for folks that might not know, I don't know that we've talked about it much lately, but when you talk about the drug fund,
Yes.
you might explain what that is so people don't think that's what we use to buy drugs?
The drug fund is, we have 2 accounts. We have a state drug fund and a federal drug fund. And when we seize assets, money, things like that from people that are involved in illicit drug trade, we go through a civil forfeiture process in either state or federal court, and that money is, when it is forfeited, it comes back into the city's accounts, and it can only be used for very specific things. And one of the things that it can be used for is purchasing equipment like these vehicles.
Great. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
So Chief, were these marked vehicles?
So they're black Dodge Chargers, and our agreement with Everett, their intention was to give them to us for 12 to 18, 24 months, sell them at the height of their value, and continue the program and give us new vehicles. Our agreement is that we wouldn't do anything to the vehicles that can't be undone. So we put a very minimal wrap on them, and we haven't drilled any holes. They're just black Dodge Chargers, but they're excellent vehicles in excellent condition, and with this purchase, we can put radios in them, we can put light bars on them. We put lights in, but they're Velcroed, and we want to put a light bar on the top. So this is going to be a big benefit to
So
us.
is there going to be any additional expense to make those modifications?
No, the vehicles will not look any different. When we auction off a Dodge Charger, we have a bunch of old ones that are 10, 12 years old. We can repurpose that equipment. And being that these are the same type of vehicles, that equipment wouldn't go into our SUVs. So there won't be any other expense.
Okay, good questions. Anything else? Anybody in the audience? Okay, Denise?
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Powell,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Springdale Fire Department and the Johnson Fire Department. And the resolution was forwarded from committee with recommendation of approval. Chief Irwin, could you come up and expand on this? I believe it's an agreement between exit 69 and 70 on I-49.
Mr. Chair, thank you, council. Basically, what this is it's an agreement on I-49. A lot of times we get misdirection on whether it's northbound or southbound. So a lot of times when it's in between 69 and 70, we'll ask Johnson to respond and we'll respond. That way we're going southbound, they're coming northbound, and if we get the wrong direction, we've still got somebody there to render aid fairly quickly. So that's what this is just to clean that up.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Powell,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 7-0.
Our last item is a resolution adopting the Springdale Fire Department strategic plan for the city of Springdale. Resolution was forwarded to committee with the recommendation of approval. Chief went over with us our last committee meeting what all this consists of. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the highlights of this for our public.
Basically, what this is this is where we take input from the citizens, from elected officials, our internal stakeholders, which is our employees, and we try to put together and formulate a plan for the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years. It gives us goals to address. We're looking at, trying to upgrade EMS even farther. That's a constantly changing process that we're looking at and probably really will change in the next few years based on some of the Medicare stuff that's coming down. So it's things like that we look at to try to get ahead of the game and try to start planning ahead. And this is part of the accreditation process of really planning that continuous improvement model.
And they put a lot of work in this. It's really a great thing they put together. So thanks to you and your staff.
Do we have that available for our citizens to look at? If
We
they
do, sir.
choose
If
to?
it's approved tonight, we'll put it on our website. It's available.
Okay.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone in the audience? All right, Denise?
Jaycox.
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Carries 7-0.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. All right, any comments from council members?
Mayor, I do have a comment I'd like to share. I've been discussing this for a few months now, but I'd like to read this letter that I have submitted. Mayor Sprouse, after much discussion with my family, I'm formally announcing my resignation from the Springdale City Council effective February 29th, 2020. I've greatly enjoyed serving as a council member since the 2016 election, and I hope that my service will be looked upon as beneficial to the people of the city of Springdale. But I'm confident that this is the appropriate direction for me to take as I contemplate future endeavors. It has been a pleasure to serve and work alongside you and the other council members. Thank you. Rachel and I have been in the process of remodeling one of our homes, and it's the house I grew up in here in the heart of Springdale, childhood home, and we're going to be moving into that house the end of this week, which is the 29th, and I know we've never had a council member live outside their ward. However, the state's requirements are that I live within my ward, and this home is just a short distance outside of Ward 1, so it would disqualify me from continuing to finish out this term. But like I said, I'm confident this is the appropriate direction for me to take as we look at future endeavors.
All right. Well, thank you, Colby.
I hope that's not the only thing that disqualifies you.
Well, I'll speak for myself, and I know the council will have an opportunity to speak, but I will say that I appreciate very much your time on the council. You've actually done a great job and represented the citizens of Springdale very well, so thank you for what you've done on the council. Any other comments from council members?
I would just request that whoever takes the technology committee chairmanship would be someone who can carry the weight of that position. That's all I request.
Yeah. That's
What
good.
ward are you moving into?
I believe it's Ward 3.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, do we have any comment? I know one thing Ernest could speak to, if you're ready to do it off the cuff, is what do we do with an open seat? What are the council's options?
Right. State law requires that if there is less than a year left on the term of the council member where the vacancy occurs, which is this Ward 1, Position 2, that a successor shall be chosen by a majority vote of the members of the city council. It doesn't put any time requirements on which you are to do it. It just states that that's how it's done. That would be done ultimately by resolution.
Would the council be ready to really discuss that in earnest, maybe next committee meeting? How you want to move forward?
No, let's at least
First thing
start
to
the
do.
discussion.
That'll start it,
Okay.
Colby, again, thank you for what you've done over your years. It's been a pleasure serving with you. When is your term officially
The end of this
expiring?
year.
The end of this year?
Well,
So-
yeah, this is my final year in this term.
So
I lose track, that's why I asked.
the position will be up for election in November. Unlike some positions that are appointed, if you all choose to appoint someone, they will also be eligible to seek that position in November. Right. Okay. Anything else? You know what's coming. If nothing else, I'm going to get
Oh,
up.
well, wait a minute. Then
Let's drag it out a little bit.
Mr. City Attorney, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, the position does not have to be filled by the council if they so choose.
That's correct. It just provides how it would be done.
Well, you weren't quite clear in
I
your.
thought
That was
what
really-
he said was shall.
Well, that was the reason, that was one of the things I thought would be discussed in
It is.
committee, because it sounds like we're only a few months away from an election.
Yeah.
If
It
that
sounded
seat
like
could stay
you were
vacant unless
required
there's a,
to.
Well, the reason it says shall be is because if it's more than a year left remaining on the term,
Yeah,
then it's either chosen by the council or by a special election. So I think it's just stating that that's how it would be done,
We
as
don't-
opposed to an election.
We don't have the option of an election, special election.
No, because there's less than a year left on the term.
So just for clarification, so we could either appoint someone or not appoint someone, period. Just so that we're clear on what our options are.
We'll make sure to add that as an agenda item for discussion next committee meeting.
Yeah.
Colby, thanks for your leadership.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you
Well,
very
his
much, Colby.
participation, whether it's leadership or not, we just don't really know.
Well, on the technology committee.
Yeah. It was inspiring.
All right, if y'all are finished, this is what everyone is here for. Just joking, of course. This is, it's my honor tonight and privilege to deliver to you and the residents of Springdale the 2020 State of the City Address. This is my 12th annual address, and preparing this speech each year is not something that comes easily or naturally to me. The difficulty for me is not so much, especially this year, is not so much what to include in the presentation, but what to leave out. As you know, there are a lot of great things happening in Springdale, and we not only see that for ourselves, but if you're like me, you hear it from people all the time. Not only from our residents, but also from others around the region and around the state. Still, some of you enjoy giving me a hard time when this speech goes on a little too long. I'm just going to tell you, this is going to be one of the longer ones, but I hope you'll be patient. I hope to respect everyone's time tonight while still highlighting important information. But I'm fully prepared for some ribbing for my long-windedness.
You're gonna get it either way.
Yeah, I'm going to get it either way. So here we go. It won't be that bad. To begin with, I want to mention just a few points of interest about some significant happenings from 2019. Sales tax receipts continued to show strong growth throughout 2019. That really means businesses continue to succeed, and offer opportunities for people to purchase goods and services in Springdale. Actually, I received just the numbers for February yesterday, and they again were good numbers. Of course, these are for sales in September. You know, that lags 2 months behind. We had an 8.1% increase over December of 2018. That 1.4 million on the 1 penny is the largest 1 month collection in the city's history. So good news. And for the most recent 12 months, for the first time, we have topped $16 million in sales tax receipts on that 1 penny. So very good news. Local sales tax is our bread and butter as far as our ability to return services to our residents. And when it comes right down to it, I know you all realize this, returning services is the only reason city government exists. Another leading indicator, building permits, also showed continued strong growth in 2019. The total number of permits sold last year was 782, compared with 669 in 2018. That number reflects a 20% increase in residential permits and a 45% increase in commercial permits. That's pretty big. Keep in mind also that that's comparing to 2018 numbers, which was also a year of very strong growth. The bottom line is the trend for development in Springdale continues upward, sharply upward. In fact, if the first few weeks of 2020 are any indication, we can expect that strong growth to continue for the foreseeable future. We also made strong moves last year, modernizing and increasing our capacity and processes in relation to public safety. For example, in 2019, we began construction of Phase 1 of our criminal justice building as part of our municipal campus. When completed later this year, Phase 1 will house our police department, a new dispatch center, our information technologies department, our city attorney's offices, and our district court. We also approved, I'll talk a little more about that later. We also approved purchase and began implementation of a new CAD, or a computer-aided dispatch system. This will replace an older, outdated CAD system and will greatly improve the delivery of public safety resources to our residents. We approved and funded the capital improvements required to join the statewide AWINS radio system. This system will allow our first responders to communicate better, not only with each other, but also with other agencies in our region and around the state. This will mean increased safety for our residents as well as our first responders. Springdale Fire Department received national accreditation of ambulance services. Springdale Fire Department is now one of only about 15 departments nationwide that have achieved both CAAS and CFIA accreditations as a member of an ISO Class 1 city. And ISO Class 1, as you all know, is the highest rating possible for a city to achieve. In 2019, Springdale Fire Department opened Station 7 on Harbor Avenue and began construction on Station 8, located on East Huntsville, and also began design of Station 9, which will be located at the corner of Ball Road and Cary Smith in the northwest part of Springdale. We also added 1 new ladder truck, 1 rescue truck, and began design of a classroom space and apparatus bay at the Chief Mickey Jackson Fire Training Facility on Ford Avenue. Our Parks and Rec Department began operating in our new 120,000 square foot rec center at the corner of Robinson Avenue and Cambridge. In the short time since moving in, we've already made substantial improvements to a much needed asset for the residents of Springdale. Even with the improvements we've already made, there's more we want to do as funds become available. So far, including the $4.1 million purchase price, we have less than $6 million invested in that building. Once the additional improvements are made over time, our residents and those from around the region will utilize programming opportunities made possible by this facility. I congratulate this council on your vision and foresight in acquiring this building. When all is said and done, we will have a facility that would have cost at least 3 times our total investment had we chosen to purchase property and build a similar facility from the ground up. And don't count this against my time. Mr. Chairman, I yield my time because I want to read a quick email I got last night because it speaks, it's encouraging and I wanted y'all to hear it. Dear Mayor Sprouse, I'm not going to give the person's name, but some of you might know the man. I spent all day Sunday inside the Springdale Rec Center at a volleyball tournament. First, it is a welcome and wonderful difference that Springdale has made in that facility. I've been going to that formerly dark, dank, smelly, and clumsy building for one reason or another for as long as it has existed, and it has never been so comfortable, clean, or efficient as it is now. I understand that city budgets are very tight, and that it is always difficult to find funds for various projects, but I hope you are very comfortable that every dollar spent on the rec center has produced marvelous results. And I was going to just read that, but I'm going to read the rest of the email because it gives a great shout out to one of our staff. He says, I was there from about 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday. I first noticed an employee. I later asked another employee for his name and was told it was Mario Oliver. So, I noticed him sometime in the morning, I think. He was using a floor cleaning machine on the far side of the soccer fields. As he came around to the front field, there were a few people sitting on the floor in his path. The bleachers were put up on end so he could clean under them. As they noticed him coming and began to get up, he waved and assured them they could stay, and as he approached, he carefully went around each person and greeted them warmly and kindly, cleaning around them. I remarked to someone nearby how refreshing it was to see someone working on a Sunday afternoon be so cheerful. As the long day progressed, I saw him several more times. He was always moving briskly. He was always smiling and kind to people. He was always cheerful. I saw him empty trash cans, help people find where they needed to go, and assist other employees. I'm not sure what it was, but he was simply fantastic. There were players and parents in there from all over the region, from Oklahoma, Missouri, and around Arkansas. And he made me proud to know and tell visitors that I was a business owner here in Springdale. By the end of the day, the areas where countless kids and parents had been camping for hours and hours were as tidy and bright as when they arrived. This is unheard of anywhere else I have been. His work ethic and attitude were brighter than those super new LED lights that help make the rec center such a great place to be. I'll stop there, but I wanted y'all to hear that. I think that's encouraging, and we just sometimes, we hear the complaints, but sometimes it's great to, and I appreciate very much him sending that. So now let me move to Shaw Family Park. The 120-acre Shaw Family Park began construction last year, and we'll see its completion later this year. The $10.5 million project was made possible by the park's bond issue, and as with all the ballot questions from that 2018 bond, it won voter approval by a wide margin. Another parks bond project, the improvements to Randall Tyson Park, began design in 2019, and we'll hopefully be bringing you a final plan to look at soon. This approximately $5 million project will include important upgrades to one of our best-known and busiest parks, including improved ADA accessibility to its fields and facilities. Last year, our Parks and Rec Department also engaged a group from the University of Arkansas to produce a needs assessment to help guide our future direction and decisions. Significant efforts were made to gather input and ideas from every group and demographic in our city. One of the first recommendations of the assessment was to undergo a comprehensive strategic planning process. That process has begun, and we look forward to sharing the results when completed. But here are some figures highlighting 2019 recreational programming. We served over 4,400 participants in our youth sports leagues. We served 139 teams in our adult leagues. We added an indoor soccer league with over 50 teams in its first season. By the way, that's something that would not have been possible before we purchased the building. We created youth sports academies in 5 sports with over 750 participants. We added free fitness classes for members. We created free umpire, referee clinics, coaches clinics, and multi-sports clinics. We added daily and monthly recreation center passes as options to the annual memberships. Numbers of all 3 options continue to grow at a healthy clip. So I guess that's enough about 2019. I'll move on to 2020. So let me point out some exciting things we'll see become realities this year. I won't go into detail or single them out. You all have heard many times what they are. But the road projects. No one that drives around Springdale will be surprised to hear that there are a lot of road improvements going on. Many additional projects are currently under design, with others bidding soon, and many will be completed by the end of the year. As I mentioned earlier, our municipal campus. Phase 1 of our municipal campus will be completed later this year. After Phase 1 is occupied, the rest of us in City Hall will move out, after police and IT and court and city attorney, after they move out into their new building, the rest of us will move out of this building into other properties in downtown. Phase 2, which is the renovation of our existing City Hall, will then begin. During Phase 2, there will be a lot of moving parts that will impact everything from parking to building access. Since many of our departments, including administration, will be temporarily located in other downtown buildings, we need to do everything possible to inform our residents where various city departments will be located. During that time, we ask our residents, as well as city employees, to be flexible and to remember any inconvenience is only temporary, but necessary in order to get to a finished product that will serve everyone better. Phase 2 should take about a year to complete. That means we should all be moved into our new municipal campus by late 2021. Our animal shelter. Our new animal services facility will be completed and occupied this summer. We're very excited to see the completion of a building that not only provides the space to accommodate the needs of our growing city, but also will be located in order to allow our animal services staff and animal control officers to better respond to the needs of our residents. Because of this more visible and accessible location, we expect our residents to realize more opportunities to work with our staff and the army of volunteers who are passionate about the safety and welfare of our four-legged friends, as well as the safety and quality of life of all of our community. When I begin to mention private development we expect to see taking place in Springdale this year, I always hesitate to just focus on a couple of areas of the city because it is really happening all over. We're seeing plans, many that have already been approved, for all types of residential development, from multifamily to single family to estate homes. We'll see it all under construction this year in all corners of Springdale. But because I get the most questions about a couple of specific areas, I'll touch on those briefly tonight. First, downtown. Our downtown will continue its transformation into a district where people will choose to work, live, and shop. We will continue to see the results of commitments from companies like Tyson as they create even more employment opportunities downtown. But Tyson's not the only one. There are many job creators and entrepreneurs, both large and small, that will continue to invest and take the risks necessary to make our downtown momentum continue. We also recognize that in order for downtown to be all it can be, it has to be an area where people want to live. We're beginning to see that happen. We currently have one mixed-use project that has recently broken ground on East Emma Avenue, with retail and restaurant space on the ground floor and quality multifamily spaces above. It will begin to meet coming demand for residential, multifamily, and will implement the new form-based codes that our Planning Commission developed and this body subsequently approved. We believe that form-based code will serve as a foundational building block and blueprint for ensuring quality development and protecting property values downtown. There's another approved mixed-use development slated to start this summer. This long-anticipated project, also located on Emma Avenue, will be built on the site of the old San Jose Manor. Again, retail and restaurant spaces will occupy the ground floor with over 50 units of 1 to 2 bedroom apartments in the 4 stories above. But not all the planned development involves new buildings. Existing structures that are meaningful to the history of Springdale are also being repurposed. One example is the old Ryan's building that will become a new gathering place, incorporating a food and entertainment theme. Another prime example is the renovation of the Watson's building on the corner of Main and Meadow. James & James, a great Springdale company, will make the Watson's building their new home. And the signage is already up and the building is looking great. A short drive around downtown also brings to attention many older homes that have been remodeled or are at some stage of restoration. It has become evident more and more that people are now considering downtown Springdale when looking for a place to live, and that's good news. And this seems like a good time for an update on Luther George Park. This year, the DSA, the Downtown Springdale Alliance, will receive the completed plans for the renovations to the park. The design has been funded by a Walton Family Foundation Design Excellence Grant. The design process has been thorough, gathering input from a diverse group of residents, businesses, and potential investors. The design is one that, when built, will create a park unlike any in the region. Luther George Park will truly become a destination and will help drive our downtown to a level beyond what even its most passionate cheerleaders ever imagined. As the design process wraps up, a capital campaign to raise private construction funds will commence. Over the next few months, I'll be working with you to identify I'll be working with you to identify possible public funding sources so that we can determine a realistic amount that our city can contribute to make the project a reality. My challenge to you is to work with me to bring forward a plan that will commit at least $2 million over the next 2 years toward the estimated $8 to $9 million construction costs. Once we make that pledge, then the efforts to raise the private funds can really begin. Also downtown, thanks to a generous donation by Bank of America, the City of Springdale is now the proud owner of the former Bank of America drive-through facility on Meadow Avenue. This not only includes the drive-through building and connected parking, but also the small wooded area directly to the south, running right along a portion of the Razorback Greenway. Nothing is written in stone yet, but future plans for the property could include a permanent home for the Springdale Farmers Market, along with a possible public art initiative or a pocket park. There's another catalyst that has the potential to spur significant development, in fact already is, not only downtown, but in almost all of East Springdale. I'm speaking about opportunity zones. These zones were established as part of President Trump's tax plan that went into effect last year. Not to get into the weeds, but the short explanation is this. Within these zones, private funds can be created that allow investment into businesses and capital projects, resulting in substantial tax benefits to the investors. These zones are based on census tracts. Thanks to the work of Springdale Chamber, Senator Lance Eads, and Governor Hutchinson, Springdale received 4 opportunity zones. That's more than any other city in the state besides Little Rock, which also received 4. The impact of these opportunity zones is just beginning to be seen, but let me just say that since our entire downtown and the vast majority of our industrial areas are included in an opportunity zone, the positive impact on development will be tremendous. Many of the downtown projects I've already mentioned are utilizing opportunity zone funds, encouraging local investors to become part of local projects that help our community and the investors. The overlay district is another area that I get asked about a lot. Another area where we are seeing significant development is in our overlay district, and we'll see it this year. After years of preparation and patience, we're going to see a rapid increase in the number of projects under construction in the district. Our overlay district is soon to become the most desirable location for retail, commercial, medical, educational, and residential development in Northwest Arkansas. Jewels like Arvest Ballpark, Arkansas Children's Northwest, Sam's Club, and the newly opened Northwest Arkansas Community College Washington County Center will be joined this year by the likes of Highlands Oncology Group, and just across Don Tyson Parkway, a new office tower housing Blue Cross Blue Shield. The George family has broken ground on a new office tower just north of Children's and has also announced a new 10-acre retail development on the corner of Jean George Boulevard and West Sunset. Add to all this a variety of residential projects under construction, and road improvements to 64th Street, Jean George Boulevard south of Don Tyson Parkway, and a future extension of Don Tyson Parkway to Highway 112. And it's easy to see why all of Northwest Arkansas is so bullish on our overlay district. Now let me touch on a few other important things that we'll be working on this year. Top of the list is the 2020 census. And I know y'all are well versed in that, and but we're gonna preach on this because it's that important. In just a few weeks, every address in Springdale will begin to receive letters from the Census Bureau with instructions explaining how each resident can participate and be counted in the census. Money for federal programs that is distributed on a per capita basis adds up to about, I'll say federal and state programs, adds up to about $3,300 per resident. Those funds come to our residents through programs that touch everyone, from healthcare related to education to city streets. For every resident that isn't counted, that means $3,300 annually that won't be coming to Springdale. For example, if Springdale is undercounted by just 1,000 people, and in a city of approximately, we think, 82,000 people, with the hard-to-count communities that we've got, a 1,000-person undercount is not unrealistic at all. We hope that doesn't happen, but that we would be above the national average if we only had a 1,000-person undercount. But we're going to work hard to avoid that. But if we're just undercounted by 1,000 people, that's $3.3 million annually that won't come to the residents of Springdale, either directly or indirectly, through programs or services. Consider also that whatever the census count is, we're going to live with that until the 2030 census. That means for just a 1,000-person undercount, the people of Springdale stand to lose $33 million over the next 10 years. That's $33 million that would have otherwise impacted quality of life for every resident, either through services received or by increasing disposable household income. Another big issue that we'll see this year is the half-cent sales tax extension. As happens every 4 years in November, there will be many decisions to make in the voting booth. I want to point out just one issue that will touch all of us. This November, Arkansas voters will be asked to approve a ballot initiative making the half-cent sales tax, first approved in 2012, permanent. The revenue from this sales tax goes directly to maintaining and constructing roads in Arkansas. 70% of the revenue goes to RDOT and the statewide system of highways under their jurisdiction. The remaining 30% is split, 15 and 15, between cities and counties across the state. Without voter approval in November, the tax will sunset at the end of June 2023. At that point, the residents of Springdale will lose $1.6 million annually. That's money that flows directly to our public works budget and can only be used for local street construction and maintenance, related drainage projects, and as local matches for roads and trail grants. And I'll be asking this council in the very near future to approve a resolution expressing our support for this ballot initiative, ensuring the continuation of this much-needed funding for our local streets. Now, switching gears just a little bit, I feel compelled to touch on the issue of homelessness. As with other cities across our region and across our nation, we need to be ready to help address the issue of homelessness in Springdale. Homelessness is an issue that has no single solution. It's a very complicated issue. And if somebody says to you, well, this is all we need to do, that's a pretty good indication that they don't know what they're talking about. If the solution was simple, there wouldn't be communities all over the country trying to figure out how to address it. People can and do experience homelessness for a variety of reasons and life circumstances, and their individual needs can be just as varied and complex. That said, there are examples of efforts around the country and even closer to home that incorporate different strategies to work toward eliminating homelessness. There are already local nonprofits, churches, and other organizations that are trying to make a difference. We all know friends, neighbors, businesses, and community leaders who are also passionate about being part of the solution. They deserve our support. Now, I don't know yet what that support looks like, All I know is, as effective, workable, and sustainable initiatives that promise long-term results come forward, we must support those efforts as a city in whatever ways we can. Lastly, hold the applause. As I reflect on the last 11 years that I've served as mayor, I appreciate more than ever before the professionalism and the professionals that serve with me as leaders in this organization. Some of those professionals have given many years of loyal service to the city of Springdale. In recent weeks, a couple of these individuals have shared with me their plans for eventual retirement. No effective dates have been decided, and nothing's going to happen overnight, or maybe even this year. But these discussions have emphasized to me that it is time to seriously consider succession planning for these key leadership positions. As a result, I will be coming to you in the near future to lay out a transition plan for at least one of those key positions. The plan that I'll bring forward will allow us to move forward properly, preparing for future staff changes in an ordered and responsible way. In closing, as always, thank you for your hard work, your wisdom, and your support as each of you work with me to make decisions that help make Springdale such a great city. My thanks also to each of our commissioners, board members, and residents that willingly serve in various capacities within our city. Thanks to the citizens of Springdale for allowing me to serve the only city I've ever known as home. Now, I'm not finished yet, I hope. I plan to be around for another term if you'll have me, but know that I don't take your support for granted. And by the way, Lorinda, this is not my official announcement. The newspaper just gives you one free, and this isn't it. This is an announcement about an announcement, okay? I want to thank my friends and my family for accepting me the way I am. Thanks, Sandy. I don't think you've missed one of these. You show up in person. We've been married almost 43 years, and we've loved each other a lot longer than that. Thanks to my kids and my grandkids, who always cut me some slack when we're all together and I receive a call or a text that they know distract me, no matter how I try to hide it. And finally, as always, I thank God for His love that I'll never deserve or fully understand. That's a love that's demonstrated constantly, even when I'm too blind to see it. So, now, God bless each of you, and God bless the city of Springdale. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Absolutely. Do we have a second? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.